Search It Up with Sienna, the web series where I use IMDb to discover and talk about all different types of movies and TV shows, and how the people in front of and behind the camera not only make it all possible, but are somehow all interconnected. I talk directly with the talent about their backstories and experiences on and off set, and what they're up to today. On our last episode, we talked with Melissa Gilbert about Little House on the Prairie. Jason Bateman was on Little House on the Prairie, and he also appeared on a couple episodes of The Simpsons. So today, I'm going to be circling back to The Simpsons, and I am really excited about my guest for this episode, Maggie Roswell, who voices Maude Flanders, Helen Lovejoy, Sherry Bobbins, Princess Cashmere, Martha Quimby, Luann Van Houten, and Miss Hoover, among other characters on the show. Maggie Roswell's characters are in so many episodes of The Simpsons, but one of my favorites, which is actually a more recent episode, is called Live and La Pura Vida. It's about Luann Van Houten, who's played by Maggie Roswell, Kirk Van Houten, and Milhouse, of course, and they're the Van Houtens, and they rent, every year, this vacation house, and it's humongous, and they bring different families in Springfield along with them. But, of course, this is not an unusual Simpsons thing. Homer wrecks the vacation, like always. And, basically, what happens is, when he wrecks the vacation, they learn that the Van Houtens are using the family's money not to pay for the house because they own the house, but to pay for other medical needs and stuff. It's a really funny episode, and it makes me laugh every time I watch it. In addition to The Simpsons, Maggie Roswell's credits also include MASH, The Partridge Family, Mork and Mindy, Laverne and Shirley, Happy Days, Pretty in Pink, Mighty Mouse: The New Adventures, and A Pup Named Scooby-Doo. And now, without further ado, here's my interview with Maggie Roswell. So how did you start performing?
I actually started when I was, I think 6 or 7 years old, and I did Snow White at a park, and I played one of the dwarfs, the 7 dwarfs, and I was Dopey. So that was my first thing that I ever did. But then when I was in high school and I started performing in plays and stuff, then I heard the everybody clapping, and I went, okay, the applause, I'm in. I love this. But it's always what I wanted to do. There was never anything else I didn't want to do, except I wanted to do film and television and all sorts of stuff, which is what I did before this. If you want to laugh, or maybe you already have seen, if you go on YouTube, there's a Maggie Roswell channel, and you can see me on camera doing a bunch of things like The Pretty in Pink and Lost in America and all of that stuff. But a lot of that on camera stuff I did before I did The Simpsons. But there are a lot of people that only know me from The Simpsons. Friends of mine had no idea that I was doing on camera stuff for 30 years before I started doing Simpsons, but at actually the same time, because we're only on our 32nd year of The Simpsons. So, but it's been really incredible. And just like I said, but I grew up in Los Angeles, which is really wild because most people don't grow up in LA. But the rest of my family, nobody was in the business. My brother started to go into the music business, but other than that, no one was in show business. So, and I remember when I moved to Colorado, which is where we live now, and people said, what do you do? And I said, I'm in the business. And they said, well, what business? Because of course, in Hollywood, it's a one-horse town. Everybody's in the business. Yeah. But, so then that's kind of how I started. And I did film and television, and then I went to Los Angeles City College. And then I got cast in my first TV show from there. Originally, I was supposed to transfer to UCLA, but all the teachers at Los Angeles City College at that time were incredible. So, and I went to school with Mark Hamill, who's Luke Skywalker, and Cindy Williams, and all these different people. So, so then when I went to City College, it's I got cast for my first TV show out of there. So then that's how I started in the business, which was really crazy. Yeah, but it was fun.
Yeah, it sounds a lot of fun. And did you always want to go into comedy when you started performing in movies and TV shows?
I think so. Yeah, I loved comedy. That was always, I love making people laugh. And I do dramatic. I have done dramatic things. I've also done Shakespeare and things like that, but it wasn't as good for me as doing comedy. I like shtick. I like fun,
Mhm.
so that's kind of a much bigger thing for me. Definitely.
Yeah. And when did you start learning how to do different voices? Was this something you did as a kid or did you learn it
Oh
as
no, totally as a kid. I used to watch cartoons and Mel Blanc, I guess, was the one who really taught me everything because he did all the voices for Pepe Le Pew, which was my French voice. And then also Yosemite Sam, which is kind of a Texas voice for me. And then I, of course, British, which is where I did Sherry Bobbins from.
um
But I always, every time that I would see a cartoon, I try to mimic the voices. And then by the time I got to City College, they had an incredible person who taught dialects. So then I got dialects, and then I started teaching people dialects, which was really fun. So doing an Irish accent of whatever you would like to do, that would be great. All the different areas that I wanted to do, or a Spanish accent or whatever I would like to do, I can do all of them. But sometimes now they don't want people to do something if they're not of that. But I am a quarter Mexican, so actually I can do a Spanish accent. It's fantastic. It's
oh,
politically correct.
those accents are amazing.
But
Yeah, I actually Sherry Bobbins is not only one of my favorite episodes that you were in, but one of my favorite episodes altogether. I love that episode.
oh, thank you. Yeah, that, and it was wild because they really wanted Julie Andrews to do it, but she was thinking she might have done the Mary Poppins 2 at that time. So because this was like for in the first 10 years. So then she didn't know if she was going to do Simpsons, which was kind of a send up of everything. And so then she decided, you know what? I don't think I'll do it. And so I had understudied it really. I sang through the songs twice so they could have Sherry Bobbins do it, or Julie Andrews, and they would already have the music all set up for her and everything. And then they decided, well, she can't do it, but you do a really good Julie Andrews, so perhaps you can. And that's exactly what it is. Funny because my husband does a million impressions of everybody, but my only impression, because I love Sherry Bobbins, was to do that first. And I love the way that she did all of her, the way that she would say everything, and it was rather clipped. So it was really brilliant. And so that's kind of what was my thing. I really like doing voices, and I especially like doing hers because, well, who wouldn't?
Yeah, exactly. And what was and I know that one of the shows you worked on for a while was the Tim Conway show. What was your
Yes.
experience like working with Tim Conway?
Oh, Tim and Harvey Korman were really amazing. And it was really wild to have watched them on doing the Carol Burnett show. And then all of a sudden, here I am playing opposite them and the characters I've watched on the Carol Burnett show. But so that was really wild. But they also, because Harvey Korman and Tim Conway weren't used to rehearsing that much because they've done those characters for so long, that we kind of had to adapt to it, because I go, oh, and then we do this, and then we do this. And then all of a sudden the audience was there, and he was doing the old man or one of his many characters, and it was just mind-blowing. Except I did a lot of improv, which was really great. And I suggested to everybody, whether they want to be in show business or not, they should take improvisation classes, because it will help them not only in public speaking, but everything else. It makes you kind of do things off the cuff, which I think really makes your life more exciting. So it's and when things happen, like a lot of the times with improvisation, something happens, and then then you have to make it up as you go along, which pretty much is what life is about. Like when something happens, you go, oh no, oh no, okay, well, you know what? Let's just move on forward, lace them tight, and go.
Yeah. Um, and I heard The Simpsons came your way after you did a sketch for on the Tracy Allman show, which is
Yes.
how Simpsons originally started. Can you talk about that a little bit and your experience with that?
Well, it was wild because they had this actress that was going to do Fran Drescher, who was the nanny at the time, who talks kind of like this. And she was going to do a sketch. but she said she didn't want to do it because it was a singing sketch. So they called me and said, would you like to do it? I said, well, if she doesn't want to do it, why would I want to do it? And then they said, well, you'd be singing with Carole King and Clarence Clemens of the E Street Band, and you'd be singing Leader of the Pack with Dan Castellaneta, who I knew because I was improvising with him, and her. And so I went, oh my God, okay, with Tracy Allman and all these things. So we did Leader of the Pack. We had so much fun. And then after that, the casting director had said, would you like to audition for this cartoon show? And I was kind of like, okay, because I'd never seen it. I hadn't seen Tracy Allman and seen The Simpsons on there. So I didn't know what it was. And I kept thinking, well, I'm going to do film and television. Really? I don't know if I need to do that. But as it turns out, it was one of the best things that ever happened. So that's also, you never know. I say, go for it. If they say, give this a try, you go, sure, I'd love to. Of course I would.
Because you never know what it'll turn into.
Yeah, you don't. You really don't. Every road leaves, there's, like I always say to people, sometimes I'm coaching people that are interviewing, and I say there's no wasted interview. It is you learn something like you do leads to the next thing, leads to the next thing. It's just what happens, So it's always worth giving it a shot and going forward with just like what you're doing now, just giving it a shot and going, okay, we're going to see where this takes me. So I think that's really neat.
Do you have a favorite role on the show that you have voiced?
My favorite was Sherry Bobbins, definitely. I loved it. I loved singing it. It was fantastic. And, but each character has a little place in my heart, like Miss Hoover, she's just so sad. It's so tragic, her life. And then Helen Lovejoy, just because of the way that she gets to just be, who she really is. And Luann Van Houten, because she's gone through so much with getting divorced and then getting back together and trying to be a good mother. All of those that I've done have been quite, it's just like a little piece of me. And even when they killed Maude Flanders, they had, they had on the epitaph behind, everybody's person, all of these different things that they wrote on the gravestones when I died. So but now that they flash back to her, she's alive again, which is the way that's so great when you're doing animation.
Yeah, true. And my some of my favorites are that in general that you've done is I love from the ones that you've done, I love Sherry Bobbins. Like I said, it's definitely one of my favorite episodes. I also love Helen Lovejoy because she's very she always she seems so sweet at first, and and then she'll be the gossip and tell everybody their secrets and
exactly. She's the biggest gossip ever. That's her big deal.
I like Miss Hoover because there's an episode I watched recently. I don't think it came out that recently ago, but I watched it recently again, and it was Miss Hoover did something to her back, and Lisa called her something bad, and then she's that was one of her highlighted episodes, I think. And I just love how she's kind of very calm about everything. She never really raises her voice at all or anything. But she always has that's one thing I feel that's so cool about her. She never raises her voice. She has the same tone all the time.
All the time. Well, and actually that, because the way she is, she's very much New York. So that's what I thought of her. That woman that just goes, okay, just leave me alone, just get out of here. She's been doing teaching for so long that she just goes in, she doesn't really care. One of the favorite lines that they had, in one of the shows, it was the last day of school, and she was telling them about President Lincoln and John Wilkes Booth. And so she says, and so John Wilkes Booth walks up to President Lincoln with the gun, and then the bell rings and kids go, yay. And they said, but what happened? What happened? I said, he's fine. Have a nice summer. So it's just that's who she is.
Yeah, definitely. She one thing about all the teachers in the school too is they're very they don't really care too much about no. The school's over, I'm done teaching too. They feel the kids, they don't the school either.
Yes, she doesn't like the school, they don't like the school, it's all it's one big not liking the school.
Yeah. And one of my other I'll tell your characters, and then Luann Van Houten, Millhouse. One of my favorite episodes with them is when they go to. It's definitely a more recent one where they go to the beach, their beach house or something, and it's not like actually like pretend they're like they're so wealthy with all their beach house, but like it's actually, they're like paying rent for it and stuff.
Well, see, and that's it. They either there are people putting on airs, or you start to discover who they really are, and they discover who they are in themselves. And poor little Millhouse, man, he just gets through it. He's badgered at every turn.
Yeah, definitely. And then who else did? Oh, I didn't say Maude yet. Maude, I loved Maude personally because she always hated Homer so much. And it's like so funny, like one of the episodes where I think it was like one of the Christmas episodes, Marge throws Homer out of the house until he does like one good thing. And then and then Ned Flanders brings him in, but then like I think he says to like if she says to Ned, like she tricks him like, how about you go get our guests a box of chocolate, and then like she just throws him out of the house.
I know, see, and that's it. And that was when he helped deliver my baby, which I think still to me is one of those ultimate things that's where the writers are so brilliant. They all pretty much have gone to Harvard, and they were on the Harvard Lampoon, and then they start doing some of these shows, and some of the writers have gone to other places and come back because it's such a fun job with all the people that they work with. But yes, and probably Maude, when they killed Maude, and I didn't even know they were going to kill her, a friend of mine called and said, well, did you hear what happened? And they said, no, they said, they killed you. They said, they killed me? You got to be kidding me. I said, isn't that a little drastic? I mean, it was pretty intense, but now they seem to bring her back in a lot of, like the Christmas episode where they're bringing her in flashbacks, which I really love, because probably that is Maude Flanders is definitely in my heart, and the fun thing is that when I was first doing things, there's like things where the animators would kind of look at you and they'd say, I should go, oh, Nettie. And my shoulders would go up like this. And then the animators would go, oh, Nettie. So it was so neat to see these characters that you helped create come through everything and be known and loved by a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely. And then one of my favorite episodes too is or like one of my favorite interactions. I don't exactly remember the episode. There's a bunch of them, but Bart is like, of course, Bart's always doing mischievous things.
Yes.
I think it's like there's a money plate one where Helen Lovejoy and a bunch of other people accuse him of stealing the money, but I think it may have been the episode where it's actually their daughter that does it.
Oh no, yes, but that was great because in the script, the woman who plays my daughter is Meryl Streep. So it said Maggie Roswell, Meryl Streep, which I thought, when would I have something that says Meryl Streep and I play her mother? But yeah, that was where she accused him of stealing. And that was really one of those great episodes. Again, because it was the daughter, it was Meryl Streep, she did it.
Yeah. And yet she seems like she'd be so perfect because their parents own their church, her dad is like part of the church, and they own the church, like it's all of that. Yeah. You just think she'd be such a goody girl, but
no, she's not.
Yeah, I mean, I could go on and on forever about so many different interactions with just your characters, like different things. But one question I actually also have is, how do you come up with these voices? Do you work with the director, or do you try out different voices, or do you just come up with them yourself?
Well, some of them, like they wanted me to do that thing with Miss Hoover, but I think the funny one was Luann Van Houten. I was originally going to do kind of like like Millhouse as a woman, Millhouse, but Hank Azaria had the line before mine, and then he did that for his dad, and then I was like, and that was I had the next line. So all of a sudden I decided that she would have a little bit of something in her nose, and they'd just be like, oh, well, all right. And then that would be where Luann Van Houten would be. But it really was just instantaneous. But again, I think that came from improv, because you have to change characters and thoughts and everything so much that it really helps you create more. I mean, I think besides acting, when you start doing more stuff, doing improv will just blow you away. You know, you realize how you can create characters out of nothing. And then you go, wow, where did that voice come from? Or where did that, thought come from? But it's really because you become this character that comes out of thin air, which is what acting is. But usually you've got it on the script. This is just like wing it, so.
Yeah, and I understand that you have a voiceover studio in Colorado where you record The Simpsons. How does that work? Like when you have a scene to do with other actors, like what do you do when you do that? And do you record your lines on your own?
Well, mostly we record the lines on our own. We used to do table reads and everything, and I think they still do that, but so many people are remote now that I think even the show, all the producers and everything are working from their houses. So ever since COVID, everything has kind of exploded and no one has to be in the studio. Mm-hmm. But for me, usually they will have, if I'm doing it, I can do it with the studio. We'll hook up with a studio at Fox. And then usually they'll have 2 producers online as well. And then the director. And then, so you've got like 4 or 5 people that were doing it. And we kind of hook up together, and then they give me direction, and mostly from the director. But then sometimes you'll have the producer say, hey, why don't you try it like this or whatever. But mostly, since we know the characters and everything, we're not playing opposite anybody.
Do you ever watch like your episodes or any episode of The Simpsons on your TV at home?
It was sometimes, but it's so funny because when I see them, sometimes I go, boy, this sounds so familiar. Oh, I'm in this one. And so it's really funny because a lot of the times you don't see it. I mean, I'll get the script, and even when you get the script, there'll be rewrites, there'll be stuff that'll happen. The animation will change on the back. A year later, like people say, well, what's on Simpsons this week? And you go, I got no idea because that was a year ago we did it. And sometimes if I do a pickup, then I know what's happening. But it's, it really has been quite a big journey. Because then when I'm looking at it on here, I sometimes I can then really appreciate the show just as the show without having done the script and doing the characters and all of that stuff.
Yeah. Can you give me maybe a few more lines that like your characters you think would say?
Okay, so I do Helen Lovejoy, Reverend Joy's wife, the gossipy wife, the minister, and Maude Flanders was the next door neighbor, and Miss Hoover was Lisa's teacher, the one with Lyme disease. Dog Richard Bart's friends. Male Preserve other male. Princess Cashmere's real name is Shauna Tifton. The head of Kitty Carlisle in Match Game 2010. All the old women, the old folks home with Grandpa, and Sherry Bobbins, as well as Luann Van Houten, Millhouse's mother, and numerous other characters that I've been doing for so many years. But those are the main ones.
That was so good. You did like a lot of characters too. Like that's one thing that's also really cool about The Simpsons is that everybody always has like more than one role. I feel like they'll have like a few roles that are like on the show like recurs a lot, and then there'll be some that are like one-off things, but they'll just like take you like you guys and they'll just use you for it, and it comes out really good.
Well, there's only about 6 people that do the show, so everybody, when you do animation, you really get paid one price for 3 voices. So that's why they also want to say, okay, who can do this? Who can do this? What kind of voice is that? Okay, we want you to do that one too. So yeah, so it's quite the challenge. So you definitely, it's something that you do and you develop your voice for.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I want to thank you so much for doing this.
You're welcome.
It's so much fun talking to you, like all your voices, and I learned so many new things to take in, like about the voiceovers and stuff like that, some tips like that, and then just so many cool new things about my favorite show. So I want to thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks, Sienna.
Thank you.
I will see you later. Bye.
Thank you so much, Maggie. It was so much fun speaking with you and hearing about your work on The Simpsons and other projects. And now, before we search it up, here's a quick fun fact. Did you know that Matt Groening named the characters on The Simpsons after his own family members? And now it's time to search it up. Let's see. Oh, Jack McBrayer was in The Simpsons, and he's also in Wreck-It Ralph. Well, see you next time to talk about Wreck-It Ralph.